it was at the time when I was in the prison camp. We had secret radios, homemade radios, and we were following the BBC. But when you're out on the capture, you can't do anything to follow news. You can't go and buy a paper. It's so clandestine that you're cut off from all the information. The first thing was they deloused me. Because you understand, when you're on the run and you're outside, you don't have time, you don't have facilities to bath, to wash, and you sleep in stables, whatever you find which you can sleep in. And naturally, you acquire a lot of little pets. So the first thing they did was to take me into a place, give me a shower, and then they had pumps spray me all over to get all these little parasites off my body. Then I was put into a hospital because I was very weak. I had I was 10 stone when they captured, when I escaped, and when I arrived I was 7 stone. So and then as soon as they thought that I was fit, they flew me over to England.
How much contact did you have with your family, during the war?
Well, when I was a prisoner of war and I was staying in camp, we used to get a card and a letter which we could write and give to the censorship to be examined once a month. The problem was when I was away. Now, it was complicated because in order to get away from the camp, I had to change identity. In the camp where I was, in one of the compounds, there were Cypriots who had been captured in Crete and they were brought into Germany. There I arranged to change identity by crossing under the wire, going into the Cypriot camp, changing clothes and sending a Cypriot to go back into my place so that they wouldn't miss me. And this man was a Cypriot, Michael Rodosthenos. He was a customs officer in Cyprus. He joined the army and was captured in Crete. So he could not correspond because, first of all, my people would know that it was not my handwriting. Secondly, his English was not good enough. And thirdly, the Germans would have picked up the censorship would have realized that something, so he had to stop writing. And so during the period that I was away, the second time I did not escape as Κληρίδης. I escaped as Rodosthenos. Κληρίδης did not escape the second time. So as far as the Germans was concerned, I was a man who had gone out on a working party, but not an RAF officer who had escaped. Well, I think some of the unhappiest memories were when you returned after a big raid, and in the morning you went into the breakfast room and you saw the empty seats. Then you know that those people who were your friends, that until yesterday you were singing together, playing chess together, and being comrades, they are no longer in existence. And to give you the magnitude of the situation, 65,000 RAF bomber crews were shot down. Out of those, 55,600 were killed. Only 1 in 6 survived. And then you saw every morning this picture. You left together the night before to go on a raid. And the next morning, after debriefing, you went to have your breakfast before going to sleep, and you saw all the empty seats, and you knew this poor, we used to say, poor bastards, they've had it. But that poor bastards was set with pain and with real knowledge that you lost some good friends.
So now, do you ever regret having joined up or fought in the war?
No. If I could put back my life and I had to go through the same, I would do it unhesitatingly, because I couldn't possibly think what the world would be like if Hitler was allowed to win the war. Well, when the war ended, I was in London in my uniform, still in uniform, and I was 6 months in hospital because my health had suffered a lot. And when I recuperated, I went back to my studies. Well, when the Allies landed in Normandy, I was in Germany a prisoner of war. And we thought, hooray, it won't be long now. Every morning we woke up and I shouted, one more day and we'll be free. But it wasn't one more day. You know, somebody in the barracks would shout, hello fellows, one more day and we'll be free. But it never came. Days went by, and then, as I say, there was the long march in winter, 600 kilometers. We marched in winter from one end of Germany to the other.
And when the war ended, V-Day?
When the war ended, I was in London. I went to the celebrations of V-Day, Victory Day, and naturally it was as if a whole period had passed and you're beginning to look into the future. Young people must learn first what the Second World War was about. And I don't think young people realize what the Second World was about.
What was it about?
I think that despite the fact that there was some people who believed that this was capitalism and communism and all this, for me the Second World War was one thing: the destruction of a vile regime which, if left to conquer the whole of Europe, we would have been setting the world back to the Middle Ages. Now, having said that, there's another lesson. And that lesson is we must not allow things to get to the stage where a war is needed to prevent a catastrophe. And that, I think, is the most important thing for the younger generation of every country, to see that we have responsibilities to see that our countries remain democratic, tolerant regimes, responsibilities to strengthen the UN organization and all those organizations which could prevent a catastrophe, and a war is a catastrophe. And I must say, we have passed through a period when I began to feel that what on earth did we fight the last war? Because we're getting close to a Second World War, and this time the toys would be much more dangerous and destructive than those I have used in my time. Let me give you a picture. The night I was shot down, 1,000 aircraft flew over a town. Each aircraft had 4 tons of bombs. and we release them simultaneously from different angles, producing a seismic effect. And the number of people that were killed is unaccountable. Now, imagine that this thing went on day after day, night after day. The Germans did it to the British, the Germans did it to the Yugoslavs, the Germans did it to the Greeks, the Germans did it to the Bulgarians. And then was the revenge, the payback. So, what is the important lesson? Let no dictatorship stand. And let's all work for a peaceful world. Well, I felt, as I say, when I got up in the when I went into the dining room and found the empty seats. But I had a worse feeling when I bailed out from the aircraft and I passed through the streets of the town I bombed, and I saw the bodies of children, the bodies of women, all lying around. And I knew that some of those bombs I dropped had also killed civilians. It's a feeling, a terrible feeling. It's a shock, because when you are up there and you are fighting and you are bombing, you don't see what you're doing down below. It is when you land and see the destruction that you say, is war worth anything? Who are the good guys and who are the bad guys? And you begin to question your conscience. For a while you have nightmares, I can tell you that. So there you are. But if you were to ask me today, supposing the clock was put back, would you go and do what you have done? I say yes, because when you see the cruelty of the Hitler regime, as I have seen it by visiting the extermination camps, you will say, thank goodness I did it.